I'm Darcy. I am Chris's sister-in-law.
And I'm Mike, brother-in-law.
I'd like to begin by reading Chris's obituary, and then Mike and I would like to make a few comments in tribute to Chris. Christopher John Cruz passed away peacefully at the age of 53 on September 21, with his wife Kimberly at his side. Chris was born on September 20th, 1970 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the son of John and Linda, maiden name Densler Cruz. Growing up, Chris was passionate about swimming and golf. He attended Cedar Rapids, Washington High School, where he set the record for the 100-yard breaststroke and still holds this record after 34 years. His time of 57.2 seconds was 5th in the nation. His high school medley relay record stood for 17 years. Chris also achieved 2 individual state championship titles and was a member of several state championship relays. His state record in the 100-yard breaststroke stood for 10 years. Chris attended Northwestern University on a swimming scholarship, graduating in 1993 with a degree in economics. He also obtained his master's degree in education administration from the University of Northern Iowa. In 1988, Chris began dating the love of his life, Kimberly. The two were married in Cedar Rapids, Iowa on June 22nd, 1996. They had a deeply loving and fulfilling marriage. Kimberly's favorite words to Chris were, "Life with you is fun." They enjoyed traveling, tailgating at the Iowa football games, concerts, and frequent date nights. Chris and Kimberly have 2 sons, Tyler, age 22, and Connor, age 20, who are college students. Tyler at the University of Iowa and Connor at St. Louis University. Chris was an amazing father who has always been proud and extremely supportive of his sons. The family loves vacations, board games, cooking dinner, and celebrating all the holidays together. In his 25 years working at Washington High School, Chris was a math teacher, varsity swim coach, a golf coach, and then assistant athletic director. He coached the men's varsity swim team to multiple district wins and a state championship. Chris was elected to the Iowa High School Swim Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 1999 and the Washington High School Athletic Hall of Fame in 2004. Chris dedicated his life to working with youth and supporting their development both inside and outside the classroom. Friends knew and appreciated Chris for his integrity and his compassion. His students viewed him as a trusted teacher, a dedicated coach, and a role model. He was a voracious reader and a devoted fan of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Northwestern Wildcats, and the Cedar Rapids Washington High School Warriors. Chris is survived by his wife Kimberly, his 2 sons Tyler and Connor, his parents John and Linda Cruz, his in-laws John and Diane Reed, Mike and I, and Chris's 2 nephews Reed and Sam Bloxam, and an army of wonderful friends and extended family. In July 2023, July of this year, Chris was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And throughout this very short and challenging period between his diagnosis and death, Chris demonstrated exceptional strength and perseverance. And to his last day, he treated everyone with respect, gratitude, and love.
Darcy and I have known Chris for over 30 years. Ken and Chris started dating way back in high school, and it wasn't long before Darcy and I began dating as well, so we were a foursome, tracking through life and experiencing each new stage together. My relationship with Chris started in high school just as that guy dating the sister of the girl I'm dating. High school, at least for me, was awkward. And when I began falling in love with Darcy, at the same time, Chris and Kimberly were there, clearly in love with each other, and he was planning on spending his life with her. I was incredibly thankful to have Chris as an older guy, a role model, showing me the way. Chris experienced all the big milestones, graduation, marriage, kids, all before me. And he's always the example I can look to for inspiration. In 2000, Tyler came into the family, followed shortly by Connor, and through Chris, I got to see and learn what a father to babies, toddlers, and little boys looks like. Not long after, we had our 2 boys, making another foursome of cherished children growing up together. Darcy and I are so thankful for Chris and Kimberly for demonstrating great parenting and supporting us as new parents, following in their footsteps.
From there, followed many years of family fun together, including all the holidays, the Christmases, the 4th of July, Halloweens, and many family vacations together. These were incredibly rewarding, meaningful times for our family with Chris and very formative times for the 4 boys. When we asked our boys, Chris's nephews, Reed and Sam, about this, they said, Chris was a very patient, loving, and a really fun uncle, playing frisbee and football with them. He showed up. He was always there for them for all their birthdays and celebrations. He loved them. They could feel it, and they know it. So Chris, on behalf of our family, Mom and Dad, Reed and Sam, Mike and me, we thank you for all the card games and the board games and trick-or-treating, laser warfare and cookouts, for being the family grill master, for nights out in the Dells, and we thank you for driving us in the boat, the golf cart, and the minivan. Thank you for always being the first one to step up and help out without ever being asked. Thank you for getting the last minute groceries and showing up with the deli sandwiches and running our boys to the toilet when they were potty training. Most of all, we thank you and we love you for the wonderful husband and father that you were. We wish everyone could experience the love that you and Kimberly shared as partners and soulmates. It was rare. And everyone can see the type of father you were by the 2 tremendously gracious, loving, capable, and independent men that you raised in Tyler and Connor. We miss you, and we trust that you are with Christ. We love you.
Thank you both for being here. Before I get on with my remarks, I want to make a reminder for everybody, if you haven't done so already, there is a table with memory cards for the family. So any memory you have of Chris, please fill that out before you leave. Appreciate it. Our friend Chris Cruz. The reality we currently experience hasn't fully hit yet for most of us, and frankly won't for some time. This reality is a testament to the impact Chris created in his time with us. It is rare for someone with his teaching, coaching, athletic, and caring talent to sit in the corner, so to speak. You see, Chris was never one to relish the spotlight or bask in the glow of his wide range of accomplishments. Nary an egotistical bone in his body, he is truly a rare breed, a lead for many to follow and learn by his example. What a legacy he leaves by quietly making a big difference, one individual, one class, one team, and one family at a time. The stories I've heard and that have been posted about Chris Cruz, the teacher, of what he did for his students, going out of his way to improve their learning and performance, has been so pleasing to hear. Taking the extra time, the initiative to teach beyond mathematics and truly share concern for his students. These stories are countless in number and profoundly impactful. This would be a lifetime achievement for the majority of us. Chris didn't stop there. His family is his universal center. This is no doubt his greatest accomplishment, his most treasured investment, and what he is most proud of in life. This is his purpose and the energy from which he gained his strength. He always made sure that family came first and allowed for the maximum time possible with them in and around the other demands on his time. He is fiercely proud of you all. Anyone who is fortunate enough to have been influenced by Chris, personally and professionally, our lives are rich for that experience. I didn't sit back and fully grasp the scope of his influence, nor completely appreciate the effect he had on me and others until his existence was threatened. I've always treasured our time together and never took for granted the special relationship between us. A great gift of his was always being intentional with extending his appreciative hand and letting you know exactly where you stood. I will miss that tremendously. Chris did things we didn't think possible when it came to his presence in and around the pool. Our times together began just down the road, and no one could have predicted his impact or penned his story when his time at Washington High School began in 1985. He didn't waste much time becoming a relevant force in a storied swimming program at Washington, finishing third in the state as a sophomore in the 100 breaststroke. We all knew he was on the rise, so we weren't that surprised when he won this event as a junior. I graduated by the time Chris reached his senior year in 1989, but made sure to come back and witness the accomplishments of perhaps the most talented swimming team in state history at that year's state meet. Even though we knew he was great, the show that crowd enjoyed still has a special place in my memory. The medley relay was all but over halfway through that race when Chris finished his 50 breaststroke leg. He handed off a lead that was insurmountable, and that relay won by nearly a full 25 yards at a state meet. No doubt an amazing team effort, but I'd argue that his leg was the X factor. As if that wasn't enough, the icing on his cake was defending his 100 breast title against a very competitive foe. What resulted in that race was the most memorable swim I've seen at any level. Back and forth, both swimmers destroying the existing state record, and Chris being the victor by nearly a half second. Chris has always been much more than his times and accomplishments in the water, but he would tell you that he was never more proud around the pool than when he returned Washington to the top of the state podium as a team in 2008, and most of all, when he was allowed the privilege to coach both of his sons on his team. He cared far more for helping others to success than his own. One of the many lessons and examples Chris embodied as a coach and a teacher. As sad as this occasion is for all of us, Chris's intent for this gathering was to be celebratory in nature, to share the fondness we all have for him and smile about our shared experiences, without vegetables. So in that spirit, has anybody here ever shared the table with Chris, especially in his younger years, and witnessed his ability to consume insane amounts of food in record time? An added bonus, if he drove you to where you ate and experienced the G-forces that accompanied such a trip. Truly remarkable if you ever were in those shoes. Chris is as competitive as anyone I've ever met, and in the most silent way imaginable. His mindfulness and ability to score meets ahead of time, in his head on the fly during said meets, and adjust. It was crazy cool to watch, and to my recollection, he was always correct. Those of us who had a front seat to the side of Chris where he let his emotions fly, how much fun was that? And how much of a frenzy could he stir up in a locker room in doing so? These are some of my best memories of Chris. Chris was ever and always the gentleman proper to a fault. This was on display even in his final days in hospice, when the healthcare providers would walk in and ask how he was doing. Great, he'd answer. How are you doing today? Not the expected reaction from someone in his condition. The teasing the two of us had since high school germinated as a back and forth between two lanes at practice. Our lane was the scrub lane, and I know exactly why, as we were the outside lane and didn't have a proper home. Chris and his lane mates found their home in the weenie lane, aptly named because most other adjectives we might have used weren't all that appropriate. What started as friendly banter actually morphed into divining some of our relationship and exchanges well into adulthood and even after his diagnosis. I might reference a team victory to him as not bad despite having a weenie as their coach, and he wastes no time returning the favor by some retort that would inevitably include "you damn scrub." Well, weenie, this scrub hasn't quite figured out what life will be like without your direct presence, and I'm not close to being alone. Losing a constant is hard, and it hurts. However, the aspect of your legacy that will continue to shine from now until forever is the bond made between families and friends because of you that has now created an army of support for those who need it most. We all may not have met were it not for Chris, but how fortunate that we did. As a result, Kimberly, Tyler, Connor, and family, you possess strength beyond your borders in the name of your Father. We will always have your back. Always be at the ready should the need arise. We can heal together and never alone, and this resource will never run dry. With Chris, what is left are footprints that are too large to replace, holes in our hearts that can never be filled. However, we are all better for having Chris in our life, and his influence will continue to resonate in mine and so many others. Those hellos in the hallways will still be there. His well wishes and impacts will still be felt. The pre-meet strategy conversations will still be had. His hugs, handshakes, and love for his family and friends will never go away. These will always be there. And I will continue to look for them, as I hope all of you will too. For Chris left us all in a much better place, and we are collectively enriched for what he gifted us while here. It will be great when we can see you again, and I know we will. If you don't have a drink, raise a hand with me to Chris. We love you.
For multiple reasons. The first is that I'm going to read a statement from Ralph Pleigman, principal at Washington High School. He apologizes he couldn't be here today, and he wanted to send his best wishes to all of you, especially the family, him and the boys, his parents, his step-parents. Those are just tough times. From Dr. Pleigman, I'm honored to share a few words about my friend Chris Cruz. I first knew Chris when he arrived at Washington High School as a sophomore in 1986. Cedar Rapids was a high school with grades 10 through 12 at that time. He was, first of all, an outstanding student. You have to be admitted to Northwestern University, one of America's most selective academic institutions. He was recruited as a scholarship swimmer for the Wildcats and graduated 4 years later with a degree in economics. I won't detail his legendary swimming accomplishments for the Warriors. Others will do that, I'm sure, and have done that. But suffice it to say, he was one of the greatest swimmers in the 65-year history of Washington High School. Swimming aficionados will be amazed that he still holds the school record for the breaststroke 34 years later. He was a member of the 1989 Wash Swim team that won the men's swimming national title based on recorded times for all high schools for all sizes. An incredible accomplishment for Chris and his team, the best in the United States. He was a multiple state champion, part of 3 state championship teams, an Iowa Swimming Hall of Famer, legendary indeed. But for me, this is Dr. Pleigman, the best was yet to come. I was thrilled in 1997 when Chris applied for a position as a mathematics teacher and head swimming coach at Washington High School. Until then, Washington had just 2 head swimming coaches, Hal Curzan and Jim Voss. And the 2 combined for 27 state championships, and Coach Voss was retiring. To have Chris as an applicant for the head coaching position was a dream come true for me. Hiring Chris was a no-brainer. He did a tremendous job in his 23-year career in that capacity, including winning a state championship, numerous runner-up trophies. I was the principal for 20 of those years before I retired in 2016 and shared many, many moments on the pool deck. He always made sure that we shook hands at the end of every meet. I remember that so well. But Chris was an equally outstanding mathematics teacher. I visited his classroom on countless occasions over the 2 decades, and I was always impressed with his work. He fervently wanted every student to succeed, and he spared no effort to make that happen. One student said that he had spent so much time at her desk on his knees, helping her, that he must have worn holes in the knees of his pants. In the nearly 25-year span when I was principal, Chris as a student, Chris as a faculty member, I cannot remember one negative word spoken about Chris Cruz, not one. He was a principal's dream. Chris Cruz, a wonderful man, an amazing teacher and coach, and a treasured friend. When I was asked to read those comments, I said, can I have a little bit of time to read some of my own? Chris and I were friends, and he meant a lot to me. I'd like to echo Dr. Plagman's words. In many years of knowing Chris, I saw him compete as a warrior swimmer. I was a coach at Williamsburg High School at the time that he won that state. The medley relay was absolutely amazing. And just to be on the deck and watch that swim was just, I still get goosebumps now. It was awesome. And then to see Chris win the 100 breaststroke in one of the most amazing swims I could ever remember at the state swimming meet was just, it's just etched in my memory. I was an assistant coach when Chris came back from college, and Chris and I got to work together for a couple years on the coaching staff with Coach Voss. When Chris became a teacher, I was excited, and then Chris became a teacher. I was excited when he was named the head swimming coach at Washington. I knew the program would be in good hands. As a former assistant coach in the program, I wasn't sure how I could help out, but Chris found ways to keep me involved and made me feel like I was still part of the program. I appreciated that very much. In my role as an assistant principal, I built the master schedule, which involved what teachers would teach and when they would teach it. When you build the master schedule, you also have control over what teachers your own kids are going to have. And I made sure that they had the opportunity to have Chris Cruz as a teacher. A great teacher who communicated well with both parents and students. My kids enjoyed Chris as their teacher very much. During our time as assistant coaches, later as colleagues in the building, and even when I retired, we would play golf several times a year together. These were the best times because we got to talk, and I got to know Chris even better. Early on, our conversations centered around swimming. After a few years, it evolved into Chris' interests in becoming a building administrator. And in recent years, it was more about our families and the future. Chris was proud of his boys and the direction their lives were heading. He loved his boys very much. We also talked about the mutual love of our travel with our families and especially travel with our spouses. Chris really enjoyed his travels, especially those he did with Kim. He would light up when he talked about where they had been and where they were planning to go. Chris really valued the special times he had with Kim and the boys on these trips. To sum it up, Chris was a great teacher, coach, teammate, but above all of this, Chris was a great friend. He was one of the good guys in the world that really needs more good guys.
For those who don't know me, my name is Jeremy Thronson. I was a student and swimmer of Coach Cruz's, and I'm lucky to be friends of Tyler and Connors. Many of you know how great of a coach, teacher, role model, and mentor Coach Cruz was. Despite the huge impact that he made in these roles, I feel lucky to see him in a different position, one that I consider his best. That is being a father. I had the privilege of being friends with what I consider Coach Cruz's two biggest accomplishments, Tyler and Connor. Thank you, Coach, for giving me countless lessons over the years in and out of the water, but thank you more for the friends you've left me, both your sons as well as the swimmers and students you've helped in such a crucial point in their lives. From the outside, many people viewed Coach as a quiet man. As one of the swimmers, I can tell you that he certainly found ways to tell you without actually yelling at you that he was upset. I'll never forget his facial expressions after I know I didn't do a ladder set or a 450 set to his expectations. Or his reaction to walking into the pool to find Tyler playing the game he liked to call, "How long can I make it through swim practice without getting my hair wet?" But he's also good at showing you that he cared, when he was supportive and when he was proud. I'm a better person because of Coach Cruz, and I know that many people in this room share that sentiment. Thank you again, Coach, and thank you to everyone who came here today. We miss you.
My name is David Hebrink. I'm a former student of Chris's and one of Tyler's friends and previous roommates. Something I admired about Chris was his ability to connect with people. Whenever Tyler and I stopped by a tailgate or he came to our house, he would always check in on how things were going for me with genuine interest. I feel fortunate that Chris's tendency for compassion is something that is shared with Tyler and makes him such a great friend to have around. And I think this trait is one of the things that made Chris such a successful teacher. So thank you, Chris, for caring.
My name is Ben Jansen, and I'm also one of Tyler's roommates and a friend of Tyler's, in that I was one of his students, and I'm one of the lucky many that got impacted by him in the classroom, as he's was a big inspiration for me, and as I pursued a career and a degree in math, which was really in large part due to the compassion and how he would challenge me in the classroom. Every single day when I would walk in, he would push me to do the best that I could and push me to places that I didn't know that I had. And even after I graduated and went to college, every time I would see him, he would show tremendous interest in what I was doing, and he would try to find as many ways as he could to help me be as great as I could be. Thank you, Chris.
My name is Quentin. I also had the privilege of knowing Coach Cruz as a coach, as a teacher, as a dad of Tyler and Connor, and as the husband of Kimberly. I'm very grateful to have known him in all of these roles. One of the things that I'm most grateful for in my life is having an incredible group of friends. This group is incredible not only because we're close to one another, but because our families are too. It takes really special people like Coach Cruz, Kimberly, Tyler, and Connor, alongside the rest of our parents and siblings, to create a community where we feel that so many people are our family, looking out for us and supporting us. It means an enormous amount to me to know how deeply Coach Cruz cared about his family, my family, and the families of all my friends. Thank you, Coach Cruz, to his family, and to everyone else who creates the meaningful, loving, and supporting communities that make life so special.
Okay, Chris, I can be strong for you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your unwavering support and love for my family throughout this very difficult chapter. Thank you all for being here today to honor Chris. We love and appreciate all of you very much. I apologize in advance if I start ugly crying. Honestly, I practiced it and I haven't made it through it yet, so we'll see. This has been the most painful and difficult 9 weeks of my life. I think I'm still in shock. Chris was my best friend. And I use the word best friend very intentionally. Many of you already know this about our relationship. I know that no marriage is perfect, but honestly, I can't think of a single thing about ours that I'd change. He and I met as youth in church choir. We sang a duet together in a church musical. Many of you probably didn't know he could sing. We started dating in 1988 when I was a sophomore and he was a senior in high school. He was the cute, quiet jock from the high school across town. I was the nerd girl, as he affectionately called me. I have loved him since I was 16 years old. We have been together ever since. Chris was truly a man of integrity and demonstrated character and compassion in all that he did. He was generous with his time and talents. He was thoughtful and intentional in his acts. Chris showed his love for me and his family in all that he did. One example is that he bought my engagement ring with money that he had saved from many years of a paper route as a boy. He brought coffee upstairs to me every morning for 20 plus years. He was always coming home with sweet little gifts like another Hawkeye sweatshirt to add to my growing collection. He frequently planned surprise getaway weekends for the two of us. He embraced my passion for travel, Hawkeye football games, and enjoying a good glass of red wine. I can't imagine a more loving, supporting father. He is so proud of Tyler and Connor and the men that they have become. Tyler and Connor, he will always be watching over and supporting you in all of your future endeavors. He loved you immensely and always will. In his last 24 hours, Chris was basically non-responsive. Even in that state, his last words to me were, quote, "I think you'll be okay." I reassured him that the boys and I would be fine. Even to the end, he was thinking about his family. We had so much fun together. We often told each other, quote, "Life with you is fun," and we meant it. We frequently talked about how blessed we were as a couple and as parents. We devoted a significant amount of our time and resources to going out for dinner, hanging out with friends, concerts, sporting events, traveling the world, and creating memories. And I don't regret a single cent. We would both encourage all of you to do it now. Life is short. Live for today. Spend quality time with the people you love. Tell them you love and appreciate them and create memories. Again, thank you all for being here today to honor Chris. Chris loved each and every one of you so much. We all do. His final wishes were for an event exactly like today, to celebrate his life, share stories, have a beer, and watch a football game together. We want to express our sincere gratitude and love to everyone who helped organize this event. Many of you have helped our family so much over the past 9 weeks. I truly can't thank you enough. I am forever grateful to our close friends and family who have been there to lean on during this chapter. Thank you for wrapping your arms around my family in this difficult time. Chris, thanks for being my everything for 35 years. Life with you has been fun. I'll love you forever.